Aloha, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Welcome. Give people a chance to get in here. This is the anniversary, the 5th anniversary of the 2018 eruption, the historic eruption that changed Puna and the way we knew it forever. We got a bunch of community members, elected representatives, and county workers, people that were really impactful in the eruption on the ground. And we want to see where they are 5 years later, what the recovery efforts have looked like, and see where everybody's at. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Hey, Layla, do you want to go ahead and explain what we're doing here today a little bit?
Sure. Aloha mai kako, Leila Kealoha, from here in Puna. So we're here today just to honor the 5 years of the Kilauea eruption in 2018. And, we did this last year, but, it's kind of significant this year being 5 years, and a lot has occurred over this last 5 years. So we just kind of wanted to create a space where we could just come together as community and some of our county members to just share about where we are in this process of since the eruption. So before we get started with everything, I'd like to ask Auntie Ku'ulei to do our opening pule. And for those of you that are on Zoom, please just mute your mics. Mahalo.
Aloha mai kako. I'm very pleased to be here with you today. And let's please take a moment to be thankful for our blessings. Puli kako. Mahalo ke Akua for bringing us together on this 5th anniversary of our historic eruption. Mahalo for our blessings, and as we move forward, please give us guidance, strength, patience, and wisdom, and keep us in your grace. Mahalo ke Akua, e na'a mahua, e nā kupuna. Amen.
Mahalo, Auntie. And then we'll share together in Eho Mai. If you know Eho Mai, please join with us. Eho mai ka na mai o na So before we get started with everything, I just wanted to acknowledge a few people to really bring this together. First of all, mahalo Auntie Ku'ulei for always being our kupuna and our firm guidance in all the endeavors that we do. Mahalo to Dane and Philip and Hawaii Tracker for just being there with us throughout this process and always being there with all those different meetings we go to and just supporting our community. Mahalo to Ikaika Marzo. Ikaika in the beginning of this, when this whole thing started 5 years ago, he was really on the forefront. So mahalo cousin Ikaika. Mahalo to Pōhaku Pelemaka, our ohana and our nonprofits, for just being there to support us in our community, and to our county for being there to really support us and to work with us. And then mahalo to all of our guests that are joining us today. So as we get started, we just wanted to share that this is going to be the first of 5 different episodes. And over the next few months, so the 5 months of the eruption that we had in 2018, we're going to have a different focus for each month. Part of what we're sharing this month is really where we're at in this reflection time and growth of this process of how the process of Pele and Hi'iaka really occurs. And we're in this stage of healing and growth now that we're 5 years later. Next month, we're going to be looking at talking about Pohoiki and the different aspects of Pohoiki down there with the park and the boat ramp and the different initiatives that are happening down there with stewardship. And then in July, we'll be looking at roads and restoration and all these different beaches. In the next few months to follow, we'll be looking at different things with our kupuna, recovery within our homestead associations within our community, as well as ending in September with where are we now? And so there'll be different updates with county folks and departments heads and so forth. You'll see videos from community members throughout this time, but just look forward to that coming soon. Mahalo, everyone. So at this time, just want to introduce. So we do have just hosting this today, Pōhaku Pelemaka. I'm the executive director. And we have Makani Greg on here with us as well too. Aloha Makani. Leah Galper is going to be joining us soon. Also want to acknowledge Auntie Dottie Kaiser, who's our vice president, Yosh Lot, who's our president, as well as Lena Alakelo, who's on our board as well. And we also have Hawaii Trekker. Mahalo. Auntie Kule, Kealoha Cooper from Kealoha Estate. And then we also have our few county folks that are on with us today. Douglas Lay and Ashley Kirkowitz and Jen Myers. And we also have our Senator, Joy Sam Buenaventura. Mahalo nui for just joining us today. Let's see. Where are we next? Most definitely. So we have here with me right now is Kumu Ryan McCormick. Let him introduce, and him and Makun going to be sharing. So I'll let you share.
Aloha mai kako. Thank you so much, Leila, for the invitation. Leila and I are good friends, go way back to teaching together at Kuala. My name is Ryan McCormack, and I'm an educator and a kumuhula here in Puna. I live currently up in Hawaiian Acres, in Kealoha. In my time on this island for about 15 years, I'm originally from Oahu, but I've lived here for 15 years and have seen parts of several different flows, I think 3, coming from Kilauea. And I just want to preface briefly before I say anything more that my perspective that I'm sharing is really just that, just my perspective. I'm not here to speak on behalf of any particular group of people. And I'm definitely not here to say what people's experience of 2018 should be or should have been. But as a practitioner of hula pele, of the dances that deal with some of the big eruptions that have happened historically in this area, there's been some things in my life that I've been able to take away from the mythology that have helped me to frame up experiences like we all went through in 2018 and that we're still going through in many ways. And I'm just here today to just talk about a little piece of that. I know 2018 was a very different kind of experience in terms of the geological activity from previous flows. But nonetheless, we live in this environment that experiences eruption, but immediately, so too experiences this process of rejuvenation. And within the Pele mythic cycle, there are these idea of kanawai, and what they are is a little complex to interpret, but they're definitely parts of the cycle of the Pele eruption that not just the eruption, but the ensuing rejuvenation that happens, that people have noticed for many, many generations and have encoded into the myth, into the story. And the kanawai that accompany a Pele, according to one of her versions of her stories, include the kaiokia kanawai, include the Kua'a kanawai and include the Ki Ho'i Ho'i kanawai. And that last one is the one that I was asked to come and speak on, which really is, to me, just the inherent capacity in the landscape, and therefore us as well as parts of that landscape to heal, and to heal completely, and to heal almost immediately. And so those words, ki ho'i ho'i kanawai, enter into some of our chants and into some of our dances. But living here in Puna, like I said, for the past 15 years and seeing parts of 3 different flows, I've really been privileged to see that manifest before my very eyes in the ecology, in the landscape. And in one particular moment comes to mind, when some of us went down to the coast shortly after the flow had made its way down to the kite, and there were these brand new black sand beaches that had just been created days before, were still being created by the pyroclastic activity of the lava at the ocean. And there were already crabs that had inhabited those beaches within days after they were just formed. There was still, sulfur steam coming out of cracks, and crabs had already inhabited and begun, a new generation of life. And in that moment, I had a very visceral understanding of that ki ho'i ho'i kanawai. Not that healing was done, but that it had begun already. And so through these stories and through the experience of living in this landscape, that is one thing that I've taken into my personal life, is that healing begins very quickly. It's often a complex and a long process, especially from our human scope and our human timelines. But here before our very eyes in Puna, we see new forests being born, and we can actually see that timeline emerge, and know that, again, as parts and extensions of this very aina, we cannot help but heal and help each other to do that, as we did immediately as a community through so many of your efforts, and as we continue to do so. So again, not that Pele and Hi'iaka has to be the framework through which we see this particular experience. There's a lot of other powerful akua who express themselves through these processes. But being a student of that story has helped me to notice the amazing things that happen in the wake of something like we all experienced in 2018. So mahalo to all of us, and my aloha, my deep aloha goes out to each and every one of you.
Mahalo, Ryan. Makani, you want to share?
No, I think Ryan, summed it up really well. I guess if it was a personal thing I could share of just my I guess maybe my first image of recovery coming back, both like it through my eyes, but Ryan just brought up a thing of when we first came in, going to some of the beaches, and same thing, just seeing all that life all over the place. But maybe for me, like if it was a personal thing, and same thing, Ryan being my kumu and hula, like things, kind of like was getting situated and prepping me for an experience like that, living through the myth and actually dancing and sweating some of the stories. One thing was, even when we were allowed to drive in, like the first time, it was like, that was like, or being able to go like home, and it was still the kua'a. Things are steaming. And I asked Kumu and our halau to dance down at Pohoiki. Like for me to just already like the intention of wanting to do that first, to set my journey to come back home, and to, like ho'omana mai hale, to just mahalo Pele. That, that was probably in a form of maybe my first steps for myself to be okay with coming into the kua'a, such a young, still steaming everything. A lot of the alien species around my hale were dead, but all the iliahi, the ohi'ana llama were just like, were just eating off of all that sulfur air, and they were just so healthy. They did not mind at all the Pele that was going on. And we were hiking over just that whole thing, and I felt like my life before stepping into hula, working with plants, and the people I have. I mahalo, even my unconscious self for setting myself up. Because I think the people I had around me, my ohana and just all you folks, that I was empowered by everybody to go to survive and heal through the process, which I'm still doing. So mahalo.
Yes, mahalo makani. I mean, we all still are healing, and that's why we're here today, just to sort of share about that and share experiences within our community about that. Mahalo, Ryan and Kumaraina Makani, for sharing. So over to you, Dane, with our first video.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and do a little video playback here. First video is going to be a video that Facebook made for Hawaii Tracker on the 2018 eruption. Is this thing? You can hear me, right? Okay. The first video is about Hawaii Tracker. Second video is about the. Let me see. Second video is about the with Leilani Kealoha, or sorry, Leilani Kapaloa. And that one will just be her reactions, and it's a great video, that one. And then finally we have Congressman Gregor Iligan and his testimony yesterday that he gave on the House floor at the state. All right, so let's go ahead and get into that.
The first 3 weeks of the eruption here in Hawaii, crazy things would happen in the middle of the night. A new fissure would open up and it would threaten a new neighborhood. Thousands of people were evacuated from their homes. I started the Hawaii Tracker Facebook group to help people understand what's going on and get their questions answered.
Hey, how's it going? We're live. This is Fissure 20.
We had hundreds of people all throughout the neighborhoods sending in videos, articles, and images. We spend a lot of time making sure the accurate information gets out.
This is live. Still lava moving.
They weren't just sharing a story, they were helping their neighbor. If a family was being evacuated, the group would just jump in and help out. So it was huge. They were watching out for each other.
Hello everybody, thank you for coming. Thank you for the support from everybody.
As we go through this, we're growing closer together as a community. When tragedies like this strike, you really realize how much you need each other.
You will never forget the sounds, the smell, the wondering, the views. You see destruction, but you also see beauty. So many different emotional experiences that come flooding back when you think of what had happened. For that long of a period. It wasn't just, okay, today we had a lava flow just went by. Tomorrow we're okay. It wasn't like that. At the time of the lava flow, I was in Puna, and I was assisting family whose homes were being threatened. My cousin Amy Ka'avaloa at the time lived on Kupono Street, and my Hanai parents from Tahiti lived on Moku Street. During the time of the lava flow, I was helping them to evacuate. The community meetings, when people came, there were a lot of uncertainties, but after everybody sharing and the resources that were available for the community to come and talk to different peoples, and because everybody had different things going on with their evacuation or their homes or the loss, or and just to have everybody, each other, being able to reach out And there was somebody had somebody there to help them through the process. We're still hoping that life can resume to some kind of normal. And I know there's been great strides to helping the families that lost their homes, helping the families recover. It's going to take some time, and I just hope that it doesn't take too long. For me, I'm looking at it from a healing component. The restoration of the forest, the restoration of the community, the families, the ohana. A lot of people may say, you gotta move on already. It's time to move on. It's not easy. Because everybody suffered differently.
I would like to announce that tomorrow, on May 3rd, is the 5th anniversary of the 2018 historic Kilauea eruption. The first fissure of the eruption opened on May 3rd, 2018, in a residential subdivision called Leilani Estates in Puna. The following day, on May 4th, the island was struck by a magnitude 6.9 earthquake. As magma continued its move to the lower East Rift Zone, over the next 2 months, lava covered 13.7 square miles of land, several dozens of feet deep in places. The flows in the lower East Rift Zone destroyed 700 homes, displaced over 2,000 people, covered 30 miles of road, and added an astonishing 875 acres of new land to Hawaii Island. I thank this body for your support and our continued efforts in the recovery and renewal of a vital and prosperous community in Puna. 5 years later, as we move forward, we need to remember that my community is still in the process of healing and growth, and many families are still struggling. They still need roads back to their homes, water, restoration of farms, housing, and basic infrastructure. I'm very thankful to our body and our partners who continue to support the recovery of my Puna community. I greatly appreciate this body for remembering tomorrow is the 5th anniversary of the 2018 historic Kilauea eruption. Thank you. To remember that my community is still in the process of healing and growth, and many families are still struggling. They still need roads back.
All right. So appreciate that. Yeah, we got some videos there, and now we can get into some of the great guests that we have and talking to them. What do you think, Layla?
Sounds great. Mahalo for that. So first, we'd just like to call upon Joy, San Buenaventura Senator. Are you available, Joy?
Yes.
All right.
So I've been doing the interviews, and like I was telling the people, at the time, May 2nd was the last day of session. We had just given a heck of a lot of money to Kauai because they had a huge storms, if you folks remember that. I mean, my husband was working in Kauai at the time, and I remember we were having all of these earthquakes. So I turned to the money chair and I asked her, what will happen, because session is about to end, if a major disaster hits Puna? Because, just a few years earlier, 2014 flow, a flow was about to cover a major artery. And she couldn't really answer, but she did say that there was a potential, and I think we drafted that $100 million bill that gave to Kauai that allowed us to be able to get some of those monies. And frankly, that helped a lot in the beginning. And that helped fund, Josh Green is now talking about kauhales, but the first kauhales was right here in Puna. They're following our lead. And frankly, the kind of pioneering work that Dane and Philip have been doing regarding tracking with drones and the like, a real life type of civil defense giving out the information to the people. I think civil defense still hasn't really caught up to the kind of information that we were getting from Dane and Phil, and kudos to them. And I think the community really appreciated that. And frankly, because I've learned a lot about what Dane and Phil have done, I've actually questioned civil defense as to how they're going to be able to, on the next disaster, to be able to tap the kind of work that Dane and Phil have been doing, so that, because when all communications are down and we are reliant only upon like cell phones and the like to get real-time answers, and the community themselves, Ikaika was the first one to actually let everyone know through his Facebook post what the heck was happening. We certainly didn't get it from civil defense, and we certainly didn't get it from any other official channel. So what I pointed out is, the community effort that came out from Puna, and we helped each other out a lot. I gotta give kudos also to Hope Services, because the monies were difficult to come. And it was difficult to come because the state and the county at the time were not really talking as well as they should have. And I can't really go public about what those stories are, but I was doing a heck of a lot of shuttle diplomacy between the Kim administration, and some of you folks were there when I brought the state legislators over to see what the lava has done and what the lava was flowing. And in fact, on the day of the, and I point this out to people, on the day after the primary election, whenever there was when people were supposed to gather called the Community Unity Breakfast, there is a photo there that you have never seen anywhere else really. And what you saw on that photo were the money leaders, Donovan De La Cruz from the Senate, Sylvia Luke from the House Speaker Psyche, because that morning, and I guess basically say now, we finally hammered out an agreement as to what was going to go through, and the actual monies had to be actually in the next legislative session, had to finally been approved by the legislator. But that photo from the Democratic Party, which you've never seen anywhere else, with the two money leaders and showed that they did care for Puna. And what was interesting, okay, if you ever see that photo, and this is one of the asides I can say because I was doing the shuttle diplomacy, is the county administration was not in that photo, okay? And it is that kind of clash that later on, we finally were able to fix. Ashley got elected, and we were able to finally get some monies through. But without the community help, without the kind of volunteers and the kinds of donations, really, it was really quite stunning to me, the kind of volunteers that came through, and the workarounds some people had to do to get the monies and the help through. And I can only tell you that, and I'm not going to say it publicly because I was involved in a number of shuttle diplomacy among the various nonprofits because they found a lot of roadblocks. And, but frankly, kudos to everybody here. And more really, because the kind of volunteers that came through, feeding people and the like was wonderful. So hopefully we don't have to go through that again. And like Ilagan, Representative Vice Speaker Ilagan said, we are still suffering, and you folks know that, and that's what I tell people. But Puna is resilient. I mean, despite multiple disasters, we are still the fastest growing community, right? And after the first disaster, I mean, there were projections of a 15% population decrease. And in fact, we haven't, right? We've actually grown. So, and it really just goes to show that Puna spirit is wonderful. And, you know, thank you so much, Kumu, for that story, because when I was going around helping also evacuate, because we all have friends, right, who needed help out. I noticed a lot of the ohia trees, and a lot of the DLNR says Puna was like the #1 spot at that time of rapid ohia death. Nakuma was right. You know, our ohia trees are resilient and should be a symbol of us. You know, our ability to rejuvenate, and continue to thrive. So aloha, thank you for allowing me to share my manaut with you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joy. You know, you've been there for us from the get-go, from, you know, back in the day when you were in the House and everything. And, you know, we just really appreciate your support, and congratulations on the last day of the legislature today and closing that all out. And thanks for all that you guys do and supporting us here out in the Puna community, because we still are in recovery. And we look forward to our next meetings with you. Anyhow, we have our county folks up next. We have Ashley Kierkowitz, our county council, and Douglas Slade, the head of our killer recovery, sharing with us. Right. Ashley,
are you here?
I'm present. Thank you. Hi, friends. So good to see all of you. I just really appreciate everybody holding this space and the invitation to share a reflection. Going to be on the long side because there's plenty action happening within Puna, and I want to use this opportunity to make sure that we are shining a light of all the good that's happening. Just looking at the news, it's always so bleak and dreary, but today I really want to shine a light on all the wonderful things that are happening in collaboration between local government and community. So just really grateful for this time. I can't believe it's been 5 years. It's hard to believe. You know, Casey Lund did a story. He's like, it's half a decade. I'm like, oh my God, sounds like an eternity. It just feels like yesterday when we were pulling together the hub and just watching in awe, all of us watching Tutu Pele dance through Puna, take homes and farms, a school, beloved natural cultural resources. Everything that we once knew is just a memory. And I was elected amidst an eruption. Puna had significant challenges before lava, and this event and then COVID really exacerbated them. And so serving community has been a tremendous and heavy kuleana, but for me has been a remarkable privilege to represent our Puna in this moment of time. Our office continues to provide leadership for recovery and resilience initiatives because that's one of our principal charges, to help our community bounce forward. And I say this all the time, right? There's no playbook for how we implement recovery after a volcanic eruption. I've always found this to be a tremendous opportunity to embrace the unknown and really write our own playbook. We talk about it all the time. Senator mentioned this, right? We pitch ourselves to be a resourceful island people, to be a model. And so through this process, we can really position Puna to be a thriving and resilient community. And I think we're making incredible strides to get there. I'm not going to focus on the devastation of the eruption. I think seeing those videos really, it took me back for sure. It made me choke up. But what I do want to acknowledge today is that folks are still healing and processing that trauma. And so sending a lot of aloha out to folks. Today, I really wanted to take a moment to celebrate the incredible collaboration between our community and the county during the event and also in the aftermath of the eruption. You know, from the beginning, we saw neighbors helping neighbors, people opening up their homes to folks who lost everything. We saw community groups and organizations, too many to name today, but they all stepped up in big ways to deliver essential services and to conduct animal rescue missions. We saw the county step up to ensure the safety and well-being of residents. Public-private partnerships catalyzed the build-out of tiny homes. The Billy Kenoi Park and Keao Armory served as long-term shelters for folks who lost everything. We were able to raise money to secure a mobile shower unit to be deployed in times of crisis, but also serve to support our homeless population. And then we brought community together at the hub for everything in between. And we showed the world, literally the world was watching, what aloha in action looks like, and that a small group of people really can make a big difference. And I just want to take a moment to thank everyone. So many of you are on this call, but folks that are watching that couldn't join us today, thank you for everything you did to help support and chip in during the eruption emergency response. After the eruption, we engaged residents in architecting a renewed vision for Puna. More than 3,000 community members contributed to the Kilauea Recovery and Resilience Plan, what we want and what we need as a community to be resilient. Resources poured in from the state and federal government, tens and tens of millions of dollars. They say never let a good crisis go to waste. And so again, the eruption provides that unique opportunity to do things differently. It was a chance to bring our county and community together in a meaningful way to collaborate. And this sounds simple and obvious, but it honestly took a lot of cajoling of county and community partners because folks are skeptical. On the community side, there was a lot of mistrust, wondering, oh my goodness, is this just going to be another game of being paid lip service to? And I think county officials were a little bit hesitant to open up and be vulnerable and talk about the realities around the tough decisions that needed to be made. Sorry, my camera keeps going in and out. I'm going to take off this background. I know it's a nice background, but the sun is coming in all weird. Now you guys can see my deck. Okay, you can see me now. Great. Sorry about that. Okay. But I think this coming together of community and county was important because, and I feel strongly then and I feel strongly now, people coming together is so powerful. The sharing of information, super powerful. And that process, even though it's messy, it needs to be embraced. And that at the end of the day, the community has to be the driving force behind every decision that's made because administrations, elected officials, they come and go. And who is left to live with the decisions that were made are community members. And so when we think about the last 5 years, I honestly feel good about the work that has been done. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, but I think that we've grown personally and professionally as individuals and as organizations. As collaborators and community contributors, we should feel really, really proud because every action that we take is a chance to shift the narrative and show that Puna is more than just the negative data and studies that are out there. We are resourceful, we are innovators, and we are agents of positive change. You know, on the county side, we restored Highway 132 and installed Kama'ili Road so folks could get to Pohoiki, but that's been at a cost because it cuts through an existing residential community. Our recovery division launched the first ever voluntary housing buyout program. And then together, our offices created 2 new grant programs, Puna Strong and Kilauea Recovery. I think about Moku'u Market and Kuleana Pohoa and Malama o Puna, Men of Pa'a, Space, Ho'olula Hui, Pōhaku Pelemaka. Just a few of these spokes, but seeing their ideas come to life, seeing their projects scale up and seeing our community members cut down silos and support each other and work more collaboratively and closely together has been really, really rewarding. We also convened Revitalize Pohoiki, a planning and design effort to restore Isaac Hale Beach Park. A creative placemaking signage project is in the works, which will incorporate art, stories, photo, video, and augmented reality. It will tell the story of Pohoiki and the significance of that wahipana. I also want to just note that next week we are going to be shining a light on Pahoa's creatives and entrepreneurs and small businesses through our annual Activate Puna block party and benefit concert. All monies raised go back to Puna youth, supporting academic scholarships, prom, makahiki, graduation. We want to give back and support our Puna kids. We've also offered free tickets to everybody that attends Ku'okala, Haas, Pahoa'el, Pahoa'hai, and Keonipoko, their families, faculty, and staff. This is a give back to community, and I just want to give a special shout out to Amadeo Markoff and Kevin Kushel with Pahoa Lava Zone Museum, who support all of our projects as our fiscal sponsor. Couple more highlights. Our office and the recovery team were able to secure the USDA Rural Placemaking Innovation Challenge grant. That's a $225,000 award. Folks always wonder, how do you guys pay for these activations? It's through federal grant money. I'll say that again. It's through federal grant money. And Revitalize Puna is an intentional collaboration between county members and community. It's really a promise to show up consistently for community and for ourselves. And so we show up during quarterly activations and we come together for projects that enhance our resilience in the capacity areas of social, culture, economy, built environment, natural environment, and youth. And it's in these spaces that we are able to strengthen our connection to each other and our aina. Just thinking about work that's happening within the economy and built space, we're advancing the Pahoa Village Master Plan. We're setting up a think tank to determine ways to steward the buyout properties and planning for a hackathon in Puna in partnership with the education tech group, Purple Mai'a. And let's not forget about our resilience hubs. We sprang up the OG hub during the eruption, and that has catalyzed and sparked and inspired an island-wide network that is supported by Vibrant Hawaii. The ultimate goal has always been give community back power, give them back power and agency, and help empower them by building up capacity and strengthening partnerships. And I just want to highlight, because Dane did touch upon this, there are collaborations and MOUs that are being put in place between civil defense, Hawaii Tracker, and hubs, because we know the power of community to respond in times of disaster. Puna proved that we can, and we will show up and kokua. There's more. There's honestly so much more that I would love to be able to share, but I know I need to share my time with Douglas, who's so awesome in leading our recovery office. Everything that we're doing in Puna has been built from scratch. And these are incredible examples of what can be achieved when people come together for a common cause. Getting here was not easy. I think Leila and Auntie Ku'ule and Leia and others can attest to that. We've had many, many difficult conversations. And we still do, but I think having those difficult conversations gets a little bit easier because of the time we've invested to build relationships. At the end of the day, we still have to coexist in the islands. And I'm so proud of the relationship building that we've been able to do, and of the county working shoulder to shoulder with community. That's been amazing and definitely a wise decision to do. I think through it all, we've all learned the true meaning of resilience. We face more challenges like COVID and overcome them and bring on whatever is ahead with climate change, because I know our community is going to be able to band together and respond. We've shown that in the face of adversity, we can do amazing things. And so as much as there is stuff to celebrate, I also need to acknowledge that there's still so much work to do. We've got roads and water systems and a boat ramp and a park that need to be restored. And so we're getting the nose to the grindstone, and we're working harder than ever to make sure that these projects come into fruition sooner rather than later. Again, I just want to thank everybody for the time and privilege and space. Really appreciate the opportunity to represent and be a champion of the Puna community and to be working in collaboration with all of you to heal our Puna and help residents prosper and thrive. Mahalo.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ashley Kirkowitz. appreciate that update and a lot of exciting things going on there. Next, I believe we have an update on Puna Maka'ala. Leila?
We're going to actually ask
Douglas.
to...
Sorry, Douglas. Getting ahead of myself.
All good. Thanks, Dan.
Yep. Aloha mai kako. I really want to appreciate Leila, Leah, Dane, Philip, and Tiku'ule for organizing this event and inviting us to be a part of it. I really participate tonight with the privilege of representing dozens of people across the county family over the past 5 years that have really faced some unprecedented challenges and to kind of be coordinated around figuring out each piece of the puzzle. From our project engineers entering data to purchasing clerks trying to get out bids to department heads that really own many of the decisions that we're moving forward with that are needed to get these projects done across our whole county family. And of course, the administration and their leadership in terms of their support and active involvement and all of the kind of really deep level of engagement that Ashley spoke to across all of our programs. Ashley did a great job laying out a lot of the work that we've built to date, and also really recognizing something I want to acknowledge about the work that's also still to come as we work across the infrastructure restoration, progress on the buyout program, and how we steward these lands moving forward, our grant making programs and our collaborations in the community. So Ashley did such a great job identifying it. I want to kind of share some personal reflections in this role that I've had a privilege to serve in. More than anything else, the past 3.5 years that I've been working on this team, I really want to appreciate the many folks here in this meeting for inviting kind of myself and members of our team into everyone's communities and in many respects into your lives. I think some of these relationships and things folks have gotten to know over the past few years really drive the work that we're trying to do from the county perspective and in coordination with our state and federal partners and everyone in the community as well. I know earlier in this meeting, we talked a lot about what the response was like for everyone, both what worked well, where we found success. I think one takeaway I have, just reflecting on what today means, 5 years after the beginning of the eruption, much as in the response and in the event, community members at an individual level, organizations, hui that did not exist before May 3rd, all had to step up and step in the way that the county, the state government, and the federal government did. That is also necessary for the response side, right? So really talking through, really acknowledging a lot of the pieces that Ashley spoke about. Everyone has needed to have a role, and we each need to continue to have a role, right, in our community's recovery. In the opportunities I have to really communicate to our state agencies and federal partners about what communities and families across Puna are still working through in their recovery, two things really stick out for me. One is that, in this perspective and in this kind of theme of healing, right? The ki ho'i ho'i, something I remind other federal folks who have worked in other areas recovering from natural hazards and disasters is that, for so many, while a lot of community members and families who did evacuate in the midst of the eruption, for so many people who lost their homes and farms, they have not been able to see those places, to connect with those places, to be in the place for 5 years now, right? Like their last memory was the night they left with their family. And I think that is a real aspect of the healing process and everything that an individual or family goes through, where if you think about after a hurricane, while there is a home to rehab and restore and to get back into, while the other wheels of local, state, and federal government are churning to help communities recover, families in our communities didn't have that, right? Their last memory, their last physical connection to the place has been 5 years. And I think that really shapes how we heal as a community and at an individual level. Appreciate the stories that our senator shared about what those early months and year and a half look like. I think the other really unique aspect of what we see is, the foresight and leadership of our state legislature and our state folks to provide this county with the resources from the get-go. There are so many other places, big and small, around the country, from a state like California to a small town in Kentucky. They don't have that access to resources to invest in that immediate recovery, right? And so while I know that we are working really hard to make those investments in good time, just the ability to have those state resources to supplement when the feds come in, right, with the infrastructure reinvestment, with programs like the BIA program, with the federal agencies, the very kind of intentional but grounded way that we've been developing our grant programs, helping to get programs out. None of that would have been possible without that foresight from our state leadership to be able to make it happen. And so that's, I think, also one takeaway that I have in terms of how the cogs of government work and how they can work for people, even as we really work to make it happen every day and make it happen more 5 years in. So I think those are some of my personal reflections. I think as we look about today, there's still a lot more work to do. We are gearing up for future cycles of our community grant making programs. If besides just those investments in our community organizations and the communities themselves, helping farms get back up on their feet, helping organizations build and expand the work that they do. I think one really critical takeaway that I've seen working with folks through both Puna Strong and the Kīlauea Recovery Grant Program is that, the impact of these dollars beyond just the work and the programs and the projects is keeping these organizations connected, right? So many folks exist today that did not exist in 2018. And when we think about how do we shape and lead on these programs, we really try to keep folks connected. We look at opportunities to build capacity, because I think as a lot of folks have spoken about this evening, for those of us in government have a job to do, and we want to bring everyone along with us. But it's the organizations that need to be strengthened. It is the networks that were built during the time of crisis that really deserve nurturing. Yeah. And building that capacity at the organizational level to help folks move forward. And so, I think those are some of, my reflections and some things I've come to learn and understand over the past few years during the eruption recovery process. But I'm also really excited for the work ahead. I think something we really try to focus on is, even with the complex role that the county, our state partners, our federal partners each play, every day we show up to be like, when the ball's in the county's hand, are we ready to run with it, right? And so that's what we really try to focus on our team side. And I can speak to that from the administration all through all the staff who touch the projects and the documents and the data entry and everything it takes to make this progress happen within systems we didn't design, right? But how do we make it work for us? Kind of centering our community's needs first and foremost. So really appreciate being able to share space with everyone on a day like today, and look forward to the work ahead.
Thank you, Douglas. I appreciate you, jumping on here. I know you just got off a plane from the mainland, so, appreciate the dedication on that. All right. And now I think we can get into talking about Puna Maka'ala, right, Layla? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, Douglas, he's been a real treasure to work with, and for all the work you do. Really, it's just been an amazing journey. And, one other person that I just want to acknowledge before we jump over to Puna Maka'ala is Bob Agris with the county, who just recently left the county last week, Friday. It was actually a couple weeks ago, but he stayed till last Friday. He was really instrumental in this process, and this from the beginning when the eruption was still going, and we started this whole process with Kilauea Recovery. And been a great mentor to me, and I've been able to work side by side with him for the last 5 years with him. And so gonna miss him, but he's still here. Just thanks a lot, Bob. We appreciate you very much. So we're going to shift over to to Puna Maka'ala, and I'd first like to ask Auntie Ku'ule if she could share to start us off. Auntie?
Mahalo, Leila. Aloha all. Hearing everyone's mana'o today is very, very encouraging. and healing for me during the eruption and many, many weeks that it went on, having to plan for our Kealoha lands to be a site for mass evacuation should it happen. I chose to stay away from our Kealoha Aina in reverence and ensure that my kupuna gave me the strength to carry on. After Tutupele took a breath and rested, I kept thinking, what are we going to do to move forward in our ohana? All of us along our Puna coastline have kupuna that are either related or very closely, knowing of each other. And I kept thinking, what would my kupuna do? I want to thank Mr. Bill Hansen and Talmadge Magno of Civil Defense for helping to coordinate our family gathering. It was not a gathering of partying, it was a gathering to bring our ohana together from Kalapana to Kapoho and beyond so that we could gather together and move forward as ohana. It was part of our discussion, and we had kupuna all the way to Little Keiki. Beautiful 2 days of ohana time, and some people hadn't seen each other for 10, 20, 30 years. The outcome was that all of our kupuna told us we must protect our shorelines. And now we have 7 new beaches or more. And all of our kupuna were fishermen in my family. And Puna Maka'ala became a reality in discussions with ohana, all the way from Kalapana to Kapoho and beyond, that we formed a group that included all of our ohana as eyes of our community in order to help keep what is now a very clean shoreline, pristine, because it's our icebox. Further, it created a network of incidents that were going on in our Puna community, how we can help, who's closest to the area, and it has blossomed in, thankfully, to a real kako effort. And I think this is one of the biggest blessings, is that we have our ohana and now an extended ohana. We have community that has come together in times of great need, and now we are here to support the county and the state in their efforts to provide us our infrastructure and our public spaces. And we, as our kupuna, charged us with doing our part and taking care of our kuleana. And I will now turn it over to Leila for the particulars. But in short, it's our ohana, but also all of the nonprofits that are along our coastline, owned by Hawaiian Kanaka. And the intent is for us to kuipa'a, as we call it, come together for the common good. And that is basically the respectful enjoyment of our new coastline. I hope that was clear. And thank you.
Thank you, Auntie. So I'll just share for a little bit, then I hand it over to Leah. We started this this collaboration amongst ohana in 2020. So we're going on 3 years this year. And we didn't know what was happening and what was going on back then, but we had this opportunity to identify like who along our coastline and our families actually had these organizations. And we worked with Joy, we worked with Matt and Ashley and Douglas, and we've had Doe Care in our meetings. And it's just really looking at what are some of the things that we need to focus on for our coastline and how to help protect what we have left. And I won't say that in a negative aspect, because it's just what areas do we have that are still existing that people frequent a lot in the respects of like beaches and those sort of things. And now with the entire coastline of down in those areas that were got covered in between Pohoiki and Kapoho, there is over 7 to a dozen new beaches on our coastline. So it gave us this opportunity to really talk stories and look at the issues that we were having and identifying these issues along our coastline and to kind of find out, okay, who's doing what? And it's giving us this opportunity to collaborate and work together. And so we'll hear more about these things in the next coming months over some of the things that we've been working on. But really, I want to acknowledge the county as well, too, because we've not only been working together as Puna Maka'ala and Ohana, but the county has really afforded the ohana is the opportunity to come back into these spaces and help to make the decisions that are appropriate and right for our spaces, because it's important. We acknowledge our kupuna that came before us, and then we are now the ones in charge of having this charge, this kuleana, this responsibility to be good stewards of these spaces. And really, that's what it's about, is being the good stewards of these places for the 7 generations to come. And so I want to ask Leah, she'll share it as well too, because she's been another one that's really helped hold this all together. And yeah, mahalo. Leah, do you mind sharing a little bit?
Mahalo, Clarice. Aloha mai kako. So yes, Puna Maka'ala is a dream coming true for us, I think. It really is. This is something we've all seen us. If you live here in Puna, you know that we have challenges when it comes to how our lands are used, how access is. We have challenges. And so not only from the eruption, but before, how are our resources being utilized or overutilized or abused? How are our cultural sites being respected, or how do we prevent desecration? These are issues that are ongoing. And for me, it's more than just like malama aina. This really has to do with indigenous rights. What are the rights of the Kanaka Maoli that have countless generations of family from these lands specifically? And what are their access going to be? Will their children and their great-great-great-grandchildren have the resources that our great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers had? So that's the challenge. How do we protect it and perpetuate the practices, the knowledge, and make sure it's passed down and that everything is still accessible? So like what came out of all of these conversations and like, oh, now we have to worry about, coconut trees randomly being cut down, just haphazardly, graves being desecrated, bulldozers, 800-year-old trees getting cut down randomly, not to mention the lack of toilets facilities along our coastline. And then the other things that come, people going in places that they really don't belong, like caves. People don't belong in caves unless you're supposed to be there. So how do we communicate that to the greater public? How do we work together to make sure that these, inappropriate behaviors no longer go on? And then how do we set a tone so it's not just like stop all the time, but the expectations are communicated to the greater community, and not just to Malihini, other people like myself who are not from here, but to everybody that even our own, the Kanaka Maoli who with the history of occupation from the United States and all that came with colonization had their ties to this knowledge purposefully severed. And that's just something we need to address. That's the elephant in the room, and so what now? That's the question, right? You can lament the pains of the sorrows of the past, but we need to stand up and do something. So that's what this is. It's a coalition of ohana, of community, a series of nonprofit organizations, as Auntie said, that are Native Hawaiian operated and driven, organizations with the government entities that own a lot of the land or regulate and have laws that protect, working all together to preserve and protect our resources. The fish, the coastline, the aina, our access, not just cultural, but the spiritual assets that we have along our coastlines, and working together. And it's bigger than just a handful of people, because eventually our dream is that it encompasses all of us, and that it will be very clear what the expectations are. And if you're not sure, there'll be people there to help you understand, and that, because, we're helpers. But so that's like our dream, is to have the people of this land driving decision making and the access to resources and doing it in a sustainable way that can continue in perpetuity. And it's happening. That's the beauty of something for me that came out of this eruption, is this need that way preceded 2018 eruption. You know, this need for this collaborative force of eyes on the land working together to malama aina, to aloha aina, you know, that it out of the eruption and all the community networking that came out of recovery, this is coming to fruition as well. Like, we're doing it. There's a plan. We're going to pilot the program. There will be stewards in our wahipana that'll be like employed. This is an employment for our people to be the eyes of our land. And like, what a job. That's the best job in the world, you know, to something that gives with dignity and gives you purpose, you know, that fulfills something beyond just our immediate needs, you know, that feeds, like Leila said, the next 7 generations. And that's the best kind of hana. If you're going to spend all day doing something, that's the kind that feeds you, you know? So, so that's what kind of Puna Maka Ala is. And so that's what we're working on. We'll definitely be going out. And so I just want to say out there to the public watching that when you see things happening along our coastline, we just know that for the most part, there's many hands that are driving this, and a lot of the decision making for real kind, for maybe the first time in a long time, are coming from the Kanaka Maoli of this place. And that is something that is a blessing beyond measure. Mahalo.
Thanks, Leah. Mahalo. So now thanks everyone for being here with us. You know, now we're going to transition over into this, our time of giving ohana and community to share. And we, you know, so we're going to start off with Bill Hansen. Thanks for being with us, Bill, today.
Aloha.
Hey, thank you, Bill. Good to see you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very good to see everyone as well. Thank you.
Yeah, this is, for anybody that doesn't know him, this was a very familiar face in 2018. Bill Hansen from Civil Defense was on the ground helping people get to their homes in spots that were really difficult to access. So thank you for taking the time to sit down with us today. We just wanted to ask you about, you know, what was your experience like in 2018? What lessons really did you take away and bring back to Civil Defense? Because, you know, it's always a learning experience, right? So, yeah, I'll let you take it.
Thank you, Dane. Yeah, those are good questions. So I'll start with the first one, which is lessons learned. Let me start before I talk about lessons learned, is maybe lessons taught. Because there's a difference between teaching a lesson and learning the lesson. Did we really learn the lesson? The lesson that I thought that was taught was that hazards and disasters come in all shapes and sizes, and that they are no respecter of men. We have equal access to a disaster or a hazard. They are not discriminating in any way, shape, or form, and that they were here before us and they will be here after us. That's the lesson taught, right? So we walked into this stage in our life knowing that we live on an island, we live in an area, we live on an earth, we live in the world that just throws things at us. So the lesson learned now is what did we actually learn from it? What did we learn, 5 years ago? I mean, 5 years ago seems like it just maybe happened like yesterday. The time just went by so fast. But between that time and now, we've seen the Mauna Loa eruption. We've had right at the very tail end of the Lower Puna East Rift Zone lava flow was Hurricane Lane. And that dumped something like over 50 inches of rain on us. And then we've had other things that also are occurring and have occurred. And we always practice and try to train and get better with it. So I think the lesson learned is it's always going to happen. Mother Nature is always going to throw something at us. So the question is, what do we do about it? Well, I think that there's been a lot of good discussion here. We are doing something about it. We are organizing at county level, at community level, at all different levels to say, you know what, we understand the rules of engagement. We understand the rule book. We have a playbook now that we can go out there, and we're not fighting against Mother Nature. We're just going to do the dance with her, right? So have a plan. I mean, it's a pretty simple, it sounds very simple and simplistic, but yes, we have a plan versus not having a plan. What am I going to do? Last minute kind. Maybe if we have that plan, we have our plans at our Ohana level, in our community levels, in our organization, community-based organizations, things can go a lot better. So I look at what we did was a response going out into the field, but there are other elements that we haven't touched upon yet that all of these other organizations are. They're looking at mitigation, they're looking at prevention, they're looking at preparedness, they're looking at protection. Those are all ways that we can reduce the amount of effort that is afforded to responding. Some of the response that we actually do, I think, doesn't have to even happen as long as we had prepared right. For example, if I didn't take that canopy down in my backyard and the wind caught it and it threw it up into the power lines and the transformer blew, the auntie next door who was on an oxygen generator, she didn't have to go to the hospital. I caused that because I didn't mitigate, I didn't prevent, I didn't prepare properly. So again, if we just put some effort there, I think a lot will be said. And Dane, as you said, I was on the front line. The incident ran, including Lane, I believe it was something like 129 days straight. And yes, all of us, not just me, a lot of us, all of us was in the driver's seat, working the situation as best as we could. I thought, there were some times that we could have done better, yes, and we will improve. We will, but we recognize that we have some shorts and shortcomings. But this is the things that I think I walk away with, and that is, I looked at the different spirits that are out there, the different people that were out there, and that they were actually trying to make an effort themselves. How can we get through this together? How can I get back to my home? I mean, I remember this one couple that all they wanted to do was just to get the riding lawnmower out and cut their grass. Or the other gentleman who had an organ, like a piano organ, like a theater organ, in his front room, and all he wanted to do is go home and play it for a while. Those kind of things. I mean, I'm sorry, are you securing your house? No, I'm not securing my house. Do you need to take anything? No, I don't need to take anything out. I just need to relax. I just need to feel this grounding. And that's what grounded them. So of course, we're going to allow that to happen. There's a sense of goodness that comes if we just all care for each other. I can't see what's behind me, but you can. Maybe you can't see what's in front of you or behind you, but somebody else can. If we all got each other's back, if we all stand shoulder to shoulder, I think we can change many things, not only us here, but also in the world. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it, and we hope to have some more conversations in the future. All right. Do we happen to have Neil Azevedo in the chat? Is he around? Is he here? Can you unmute Neil if you're in? No, not seeing it. All right. So let's go ahead and Leila, do you want to go ahead and take up Nick?
Yes.
All right.
Right. So I'd like to introduce Nick Francisco.
Hey.
Aloha, Nick.
Hey, aloha. Velina me ke aloha kako. O Nick Kala Makani Francisco Ko'inoa. Greetings, everybody. My name is Nick Francisco. I'm an educator. I've been working in the Puna schools for the last 13 years. Keonipoko, Mountain View, most recently Pahoa, which is where I was teaching when the eruption happened. My wife and I, at that time, were still dating, but we had just bought a house. For those of you familiar, it was Kaliko and Nalani Lee's house on Makamai, right before Kahukai. We had moved in about a month and a half before the first cracks, which came on Kahukai began to come out. So we still hadn't even unpacked. And you know, seeing those videos and thinking back about the experience, you know, for my wife and I, we really do feel like we're extremely blessed to have experienced it. I'm originally from Oahu. My kupuna on my mom's side come from Waimea, Kauai, the Kala and the gay families. But I'm very thankful to have had the experience because it taught me a lot about perspective. I'm thankful for everyone who helped us all endure that. To everybody at the hub, I just, from the bottom of my heart, I just cannot express the aloha that our family has for everybody who came together, Dane and Phil and Ikaika and Bula and Lauae and Uncle Howard and just everybody who made things happen. Oh, and Gilbert for hosting. Just, you know, to see that happen really, really made me thankful to be a part of this community. And, you know, nature happens everywhere. One of my main learnings is that, you know, nature really does happen anywhere, but it's really, where do you want to be when it hits the fan? You know what I mean? When terrible things happen, we really, I think in Puna, we can overcome anything. You know, seeing the response in Isel, and then seeing the response after the eruption, I'm very certain that, you know, Puna, we are so strong. And just mahalo to everybody for helping our ohana. And a lot of my students at Pohoa at the time who, you know, had to go through a lot of changes and a lot of challenge and, you know, became houseless like we did. You know, in this process of Pele and Hi'iaka, of in that mo'olelo and the generation and regrowth after the destruction, you know, destruction isn't really destruction. It's just the creation of something new. And we have new growth, that which regenerates, right? And in that process, I think our community has grown so much stronger. And, you know, the students that I taught at Pohoa, we learned about the mo'olelos of Tutupele. We talked about Ailā'au as well, and about perspective. And, you know, and I know everybody on this call and those of you at home who are listening have their own perspective of what akua, or, you know, act of nature this was. But I think it's important for us all to remember that, you know, everybody has their own interpretation of the world around us, and that we can view the same thing and see very different things, and that it was fantastic and terrifying and still has brought great growth for us all. So I just wanted to say mahalo to everybody. Mahalo for the learning that my students and I got to experience as we learned about what was happening. Mahalo to Dane for speaking to my students at the Lava Museum when we brought them down a few years ago, and mahalo to everybody who has helped us to be in a place where, in my mind, it was a reset, and we have grown. We're in a beautiful home that we've built. We got to design. It was a major inconvenience camping and trying to find a home for all of our stuff and our many dogs, but you know, through the ashes, right, we continue to grow. And I feel that it was truly one of the greatest blessings of my life to experience and see what I saw, and to be in the place where we are now as a family and as a community. So mahalo, Leila, for the opportunity to share.
Mahalo, Nick, and mahalo for being there, not just for our Kiki and our schools, but for our community and our ohana, because you not only teach in our schools, but you teach in our community as well, too. So mahalo for being there for all of us as well, too. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick. I think next up we will have a video from Andrew Hara, his 100 Days of Kilauea, and then we'll get to speak to the man himself, the man behind the camera. And we had all kinds of crazy stories in 2018, but let's take a look at this video right here and now, first and foremost. All right. Well, thank you, Andrew. I mean, that's some amazing footage there. I know it's hard for some people to look at again. A lot of memories get brought back to the forefront. You there, Andrew?
I'm here.
All right. Good to see you again.
It's hard to watch sometimes.
I know, right? It's amazing
Yeah.
that some of that stuff happened. Just seeing the footage from it all. But I wanted to talk to you today about the media response, right? Because me and you have had many discussions about the media response and the role it could play in future eruptions, the role it played in 2018. What was your takeaway from 2018 in terms of what the media and photographers and everybody could do when they're working together, kind of, to meet a challenge?
Well, I think one of the things that was very clear early on is that if there isn't a clear and organized way to allow access or designate points of access that are safe for media to come, that it becomes a circus. I think one of the main concerns throughout the entire eruption was how to share and work with Hawaii Tracker as we became a partnership. How do we do this in a respectful way that we aren't showing people's homes that are burning that may not want to be shown? How do we show certain things that just doesn't need to be public information? And how do we do that with respect to our community? I remember being at the EOC and we were getting briefed with a bunch of mainland network crews, and this guy had from NBC, he had a camera in this lady's face and she was crying because she just lost her house. And two of us went over and we asked him, like, you don't know what she lost. Like, you cannot just stick a camera in here. You don't know this community. And a bunch of us talked later about that, and we realized that we needed to not take responsibility for the community, but work with them to watch out for certain things that may be taken advantage of. It's a global, worldwide event. It's beautiful, terrifying, destructive. The media will eat it up in whatever way they can to get the amount of views that they want. For us, it was different. It's for information, for transparency. There are so many people that relied on Hawaii Tracker because we were able to provide up-to-date information in a way that couldn't and wasn't able at the time to be shared in a way that we needed to receive it. And so I think over the eruption, we were able to hammer out details and create a communication path that is currently maturing and evolving today. And so I'd like to thank, everybody from us, community, county, civil defense, state, and feds to be able to work together to create a communications package so that, first off, and most importantly, to help our community in times of need. We saw with Mauna Loa eruption, things were a little bit smoother for sure. But if, say, something like Leilani ever happens again, I think one would hope that we would have a lot of the kinks worked out so that there is a reliable source for people to feel taken care of, that they can rely on, that is up to date.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. You sum it up perfectly there. A lot of work to do, but we've come a long way, really. And especially when we were figuring this all out as the eruptions were going, just complete chaos, but we made it all work. And the respect part of it is really big to me, just being able to, because that was my experience of it. Was my parents' house was the second house gone, right? So it's like, okay, I got the experience from the other side immediately, type thing. And yeah, appreciate everything you did in the eruption. All the the people see sometimes they'll just look at the videographers and be like, oh, they're all the same. It's like, no, if you're there in 2018, you would see those who care versus those who are there for the money, type of thing.
It's a fine line.
Yeah.
To choose who can be there, should be there, and I think it really comes down to the community should choose. How do we represent these places best for news, but for us, it's information that will keep us safe, keep us less panicked, mitigate curiosity. We'll go there so that you don't so you can stay safe. We're trained to do it. And so that is my hope for how things are evolving and maturing, that we have that system. So thank you for the trust from every agency and every community. It is a true honor.
Yes. I look forward to continuing that work in the future. Thank you, Andrew. Layla, who do we have up next?
First of all, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, I mean, amazing. Just some of the things that you've shared and that you covered. I mean, it's just amazing. We really appreciate it and appreciate the support. Next up, we have Laua'i Kekahuna. I'd like to just bring her up if she's available.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha. Ovono o Laua'i Kekahuna. I am from the Moku'u Farmers Market, and it's just been an honor and privilege, Leila. Mahalo for inviting and speaking on behalf of myself and Moku'u. But I've enjoyed being here and sitting through the videos and your folks' mana'o of what had happened over the last 5 years. And I really just have to say mahalo to each and every one of you. It's been such an honor to work with all of you in different paths of our lives, and it's just so awesome. But when my mom and dad first moved here, we reside in Leilani, and that's where we were until like maybe mid-teen, and we ended up moving into Nanawale, and from Nanawale we reside here in Moku'u. So Leilani is a really special place for us, and when we first heard about the eruption, it's been devastating news. We were actually home here, and we got the call that the eruption had happened and we needed to help Auntie Queenie Carter move out. So without question and disbelief, we just booked it to go and help her out. And just seeing the rush and panic in Puna was unreal. And at the same time, it was really humbling to see, even in the rush of things, that there was so much ohana. There was a long line of traffic, and each and every one of us wanted to get in, but we also had the anu of malama as well to help each other move out. But in the process, Moku'u has been there in support in any way we could, and working amongst and collaborating with the Ashley Kirkowitz, Ip County, and Vibrant Hawaii, and Ikaika Marzo. We just have been there always to support in food distributions. And I just want to mahalo our team, my brother Ioane and Bula, for just taking a sharp 90-degree angle turn in helping to kokua the community in every way that we can. And during our the lava flow eruption and even COVID, we have learned so much on the back ends on how to prepare. There was a lot of preparations and a lot of executions, and the takeaway out of this whole experience has been to just really work and submit and work with the community, be there if anytime in need. And there's just so much we're just so thankful. We weren't directly impacted by the lava eruption. However, we had the honor to help all the community members that needed help. And it really showed strength to me. It helped us prepare as an organization on, we're prepared for another pandemic. Our focus took really towards Aina, where today we are helping more and more schools. Nick has been helping us do self-sustainability workshops and getting our ohana prepared in their Aina to start to plant more in larger quantities and to help actually teach different methods of farming so that in case another eruption or pandemic happens, we are more prepared in our mala. And our vision, the more people with mala, if anything happens to anyone in one ahupua'a or district, that another would be able to carry on and help sustainability and food security efforts. So that's what I have to say. And just mahalo everyone for working so well together for the last several years. And I hope to see more collaborations and expansion of whatever efforts that we're doing for the community. So mahalo.
Mahalo loa e. Yes, the Moku'u market and our ohana over there have just been instrumental in helping us be one of those resilience hubs and like a space for us to be able to pass out food and to bring community together and hosting meetings for us. So mahalo to our ohana and Moku'u. We're just checking to see we have an iPhone on here. Is it is it Uncle Keone?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yay. All right. Well, mahalo Uncle Keone for joining us today. We appreciate you being here with us as one of our kupuna in our community. And, we just thanks for being here with us for sure. Uncle, so we just want to let you share what you want to share. Some of the things I wanted to just see, how has this new landscape sort of changed the way of your life, being in our areas and along our coastline, and some of the significant growth that you've experienced. But I just want you to share as well as you, as our ohana, as one of our kupuna in our community. So please share with us, Uncle.
All right. Okay. Mahalo. Well, first of all, for my lifetime, I experienced several actually eruptions. Yeah. So it dates back to like Kapoho, and then also we had the series actually in Kalapana. Yeah. And in 1984, I think it was Mauna Loa. Yeah. And for us as Puna people, we always endure, the lava. We know that when the lava coming, that, it's about not only in some people's eyes, destruction, but also growth. Yeah. And in other people's eyes, it's also death. Yeah. So you look at the forest being destroyed. But we also got to look at the positive side about regrowth. Yeah. Like for us, in 2018, it was like the rot, yeah, the disease of the ohia. So when the forest got kind of like wiped out, then what you see first growing, yeah, is like fern, and also ohia is growing. So like I say, a lot of people, they have different experiences, and they get traumatized, and it's all on each individual person on their healing process. You cannot just say, oh, okay, after 5 years you got to move on. No, it's like a death in the family. Everybody get their own healing process, and some is short term, some is long term. But as a whole, as a community in ohana, we also help each other grow, and also we have opportunities to actually strengthen our community, especially in Lower Puna. And like you said earlier with Puna Maka'ala, we're also for me, our organization, we're also part of Puna Maka'ala, and I see it as it's a positive growth, and at the same time we can actually malama our coastal lines, malama our natural resources. Yeah. So I think it's when 2018, when the whole thing happened, I was actually at the Y with the civil defense that evening, And throughout time, I was also at the hub, trying to help us as much as possible, meeting our ohana, meeting new friends, and also kukua people when they needed help. Yeah. Okay. And yes.
Oh, I was just gonna say thank you. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, continue.
Yes. And then so I'm coming from a different perspective because of my practice. So my practice is actually Heiau practices, and we have our own deity. We have our own akua, and through our eyes, the Heiau practitioner or practitioners, the 28 eruption was Ailā'au because of the characteristics that have taken place. Yeah. So the last time that Ailā'au flow was actually between 1420 to about 1470s. That was his last flow. And through all of this experiences, and it's really, really good that people can actually kind of like reflect. Different practitioners have different akuas. They have different deities. Yeah. And with that, in the later part of the eruption, the county actually was asking for a name for Fisher 18. And during, I forget what evening it was. I know we all met at Maku'u Farmers Market. And it was Kalani Whitaker, Makekau, Piilani, and also Lei. And so I shared my mana'o about the reason why I have chosen Ahu Ailā'au. And it's because of the kauna. So if you look at the lava flow, it is from Kapoho all the way to Pohoiki. And it looks like one ahu'ula or one cloak. So that's one of the counters of the name. And then the second name was actually the ahu itself. And that's the reason why I chose the name Ahu Ailā'au. Yeah. And, some people accepted the name and some don't. Yeah. And I know today we had a group of students from Kamehameha schools, and they went and visited Ahu Ailā'au today. So we as Kanaka, we all work together, but we as practitioners, we have different, like I say, akuas and also deities. So I'm just sharing the perspective coming from one Heiau practitioner. And it's really remarkable, getting back to our community, how we have strengthened ourselves among ohana and also friends, and also with the government, different agencies, as we continue to reflect on the next steps, like opening the roads and other infrastructure that is well needed for the community. And with that, that's all I have to say. Mahalo for letting me speak on the 5th anniversary. Mahalo again. Aloha.
Mahalo, Uncle, so much. Yes, it's definitely been a lot. We still got a lot to go ahead, but mahalo for sharing. And I just wanted to ask if Molia, you want to share briefly with us, maybe about where you were at and like.
Sure, I wasn't ready for it.
It's okay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Malia Ka'avaloa. Born and raised in Puna. Kalapana and Pohoa is home. I currently live in Kīkala Kalapana, which is crown lands that the state legislation ended up allowing the old Kalapana residents from the prior lava flow leased land. That's where I currently live right now. 5 years. So 2018, I had a very rambunctious 3-year-old, as much as I love my community and getting involved with my community, I couldn't do much. But what I could do was whenever Ikaika came down with supplies to Uncle Robert, I would hit up Uncle Robert, throw all kinds of stuffs in my car, and I would go in the lava fields. I would go to all the tutu houses. The people who ended up staying, I went and delivered a lot of stuff, face masks, water, supplies, anything that they needed. That is something that I could do. But 5 years, wow. There were moments where the plume got really bad in Kīkala and I had to leave. So I went Kupahua to Grandma's house, and Grandma's house, we're tucked away in the forest over the lava field. And so it's like a little barrier. So when the wind would blow, it would blow all against the side of the mountain. So Grandma's house was my safe net. So anytime I felt like the plume was getting too strong in our area, I would take my 3-year-old and we would go stay in Kupahua. Yeah, it's been 5 years. I cannot believe it, but we are in recovery. We are striving to move forward. Trying to get more ohana down here in Kīkala Kalapana. It's slowly but surely. We have a nonprofit, Kīlauea o Puna, with Uncle Gilbert Haunio and Etitutsi. And recently they nominated me to join them, which I am more than glad, because the kupunas need to, like Layla said, the next generation got to step up. So I'm stepping up, and like Leda said, 7 generations. I'm looking at 7 generations as well. We just started an association as well down here, which is on the move and on the go, so that we can get more action that needs to be done, so we can get our park going, get our leases changed, I guess. Yeah. That's me sharing. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Malia. Yes, and our Kala Ono Onio Puna Ohana over there in Kīkala and Keokea homesteads, they're part of our Puna Maka'ala. And we've been having meetings with them, and soon to have some more with Gregor and Joy and Ashley folks. Mahalo for all their support with our Ohana down there. So we have a Claire on. Claire, do you want to share anything while you're here with us? Going once, twice.
All right.
All right. Well, during this time, it's been me and Dane really talking, and I really appreciate you, Dane, and everyone that's hung out with us. We're going on almost 2 hours, but I'd like to ask Philip if you'd like to share.
Sure. Mahalo, everyone. Yeah, it's been an honor to be sharing this space with all of you guys. Trying to make sure things are running smooth behind the scenes here, but I'd love to share my mana'o as well. What's really always been the story to me has been the power of community, and it's interesting to hear today how everyone's got a different perspective. Everyone had a slightly different experience going through the eruption, and yet at the time we all came together in a way that was really unbelievable to see how that happened. I think, everyone probably wishes they had done something a little bit better, but in the end, we covered all the bases from our community efforts, and that was really something that was amazing. Since eruptions ended, it's been continuing, right? The community continues to move forward together, and with a unity that is still very striking. Maybe not quite as together as before, right? Because naturally we're not quite under the same amount of stress, and there were other issues happening in our lives ever since then, other disasters, whether it was COVID or other things that have followed, but we're still here, all moving forward together. And I think that's the important thing. 5 years later, we're still here all together, moving forward, working out our differences, all contributing our ideas. And it's really something very powerful that I think could be seen as a model for anywhere else in the world that's responding to disasters. So I'm just really, really proud to be part of that, and proud to be associated with all you wonderful folks here in our Zoom. And yeah, it's been amazing. We never thought that 5 years from that eruption we'd still be doing this. To be honest, it was kind of a stopgap measure at the time, but here we all are, and we're all still working at it, and happy to keep going. So really appreciate our community and glad to be part of it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Philip. Yeah. The things that have really come from that time and the ending of the eruption up until now is there's been so much change, and a lot of really good change in some ways. And I know that there's a lot of frustration out there still. Just know that things will happen. They are going to happen, and we're still working there. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here today and for really dedicating your time and volunteering your time throughout all these years to really help support these initiatives and these actions that really need to happen with our roads and our infrastructure and all those different things. And we will be touching upon those things over the next 4 months throughout this process. I'd like to ask if anyone else has anything else to share at this time. Auntie Kūlei, you want to share anything?
Mahalo, Leila. The foundation of our Puna is within our community. Our kupuna who came before us, we have the luxury of their ike and their patience and their guidance. Our community has shown, I believe, the most bonded community, perhaps in the state, given our experience that we shared together. What I'm very, very happy and very blessed is to be here with you folks and working with the county, the state, and federal government so that our Puna can realize a new day in a new lay of the land. And we all will work together for our Mopuna, our Keiki, and those generations to come. Each and every one of us has special skills, special knowledge, and good intentions always bring, for the greater good, a brand new day in Puna. My papa always told us, we have to ho'omanau nui and keep going, keep on persevering. We have no choice. We have a homeland that we love and cherish. And with all of our changes, I'm very grateful that we have each other at the end of the day. Mahalo to everyone. God bless. Ahui ho.
I think that's a great way to conclude right there. Personally, we're just about approaching 2 hours here. This is the 5th anniversary of the 2018, the historic eruption that took place in Lower Puna. And we appreciate everybody that tuned in today and that showed up and contributed, shared their stories, their past, their present. Quick programming note, our normal live stream updating on Kilauea is on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. That's not happening this week. This special thing is going on today, but we do kind of expect Kilauea to be showing signs at the summit relatively soon. So we might end up going live with a special presentation if Pele pops her head up inside the caldera or around it at the summit. Other than that, next Wednesday will be our next stream, and then we will have further streams after on this type of content with many of the community members going forward over the next couple months. All right. I think that does it for anybody want to say last goodbyes?
Mahalo, everyone.
All right. All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. That'll do it for today.
Mahalo.